and the garden and the peace and the knowledge that Christ is with us. That passage we heard from John is the most often read passage on Easter morning. We feel with Mary the grief and then the joy of that resurrection morning. We feel with Mary that stone rolled away, the angels in white, Jesus looking like a gardener. With Mary, then we say, I have seen the Lord. But as I told you at the beginning of the service, this is not the only resurrection story. Listen now to how the gospel writer Matthew tells us about that very same event. And I read to you from Matthew chapter 28, verses 1 through 8. After the Sabbath, as the first day of the week was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb, and suddenly there was a great earthquake. For an angel of the Lord descending from heaven came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothing white as snow. For fear of him, the guards shook and became like dead men. But the angel said to the woman, do not be afraid. I know that you're looking for Jesus who is crucified. He's not here, for he has been raised, as he said. Come, see the place where he lay, and then go quickly and tell his disciples. He's been raised from the dead, and indeed is going ahead of you to Galilee, and there you will see him. This is my message to you. So they left the tomb quickly with fear and great joy and ran to tell the disciples. Did you hear that? Matthew tells us that resurrection was like an earthquake, that the actual physical ground shook. That was the power of the resurrection. Can you imagine what Mary Magdalene and the other Mary felt in this telling of the story? They saw it. That's what we're told. They saw it. The angel descending from heaven, rolling back a huge stone to the entrance to the tomb. And the angel, we're told, has an appearance like lightning. Like lightning. The guards were so fearful, we're told, that they fainted. They fell as like dead men to the ground. This is not the quiet garden scene that we hear in the Gospel of John. No, this is a scene of unimaginable power. The whole earth, all of creation quaking with the resurrection. The skies opening up like lightning, an angel appears. This is Easter power. This is Easter power. We need Easter peace, right? We all do, inside and outside. And we also need Easter power. The power to conquer sin, the power to confront evil in this world, the power to do what is right even when it is hard, the power to not give up on hope. That's the kind of Easter power we can claim today as Christians. A couple of weeks ago, 3 maybe now, Jim and I were talking about music for this morning, and he told me he was working on a big postlude. I love when he tells me that. He was working on a big postlude for Easter. And he told me what it was, and so I listened to it online, I listened to it on YouTube, so I could know what he was playing. And when I heard it, I said, I got back to him and said, Jim, this is not a postlude. This is an organ sermon, right? This is an organ sermon because it tells us through sound, through notes, through all the keys and pedals and buttons that Jim uses to play. It tells us about an earthquake. It tells us about lightning. It tells us about the fear, and I want you to listen for this as Jim plays this big piece. I want you to hear it and feel it again as an Easter sermon on the organ. Listen for the wondering of the women. Listen for the fearfulness of the guards. Take in now the power of the resurrection. Did you hear it? The stone has been rolled away. Jesus is alive. It has changed all of creation. That is the good news. We left our story from Matthew right before the greeting. For what you heard was they left the tomb quickly with fear and great joy and ran to tell his disciples. And then suddenly, like the end of that organ piece, then suddenly Jesus met them and said, "Greetings." And they came to him and they took hold of his feet and they worshiped him. And then Jesus said, "Do not be afraid." That comes up all through Scripture. Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers, and I would add sisters and siblings. Go tell my siblings to go to Galilee, and there they will see me. We are sent forth to tell this great story of peace and of power and to live it out in ourselves. So we go forth now ourselves singing, "He lives." Our lives are changed because of that. So if you're able